For the past couple of months, I've used a Ubiquiti Unifi Talk phone as my home phone. Welcome back to the Scotti-BYTE channel, and this is Scott. So that's the topic of discussion today. We want to talk about using Unifi Talk as a home phone. And so my home phone started out as a Bell System landline from one of the baby Bells many years ago, and we won't talk about what year that was. And so that phone was migrated to Vonage in around 2002. And by 2008, I ported my home phone from Vonage over to Ooma. And then around 2014, I ported my Ooma phone over to Google Voice, and I really liked Google Voice because Google Voice was free. And so to support my analog phones using Google Voice, I had purchased an Oba analog telephone adapter, otherwise known as an ATA. And my Oba OB200 ATA, unfortunately, has been discontinued as a part of the acquisition of the Polygon company by Hewlett-Packard. And so as of December 18th, 2024, there is no ATA solution for Google Voice phones. And the reason that might be important is if you want to use cordless phones in your house to answer your Google Talk, or your Google Voice, I should say, you can no longer do that. So why did I move to Unifi Talk? I mean, there's a lot of options out there for VoIP phone systems, and really, Unifi Talk is not necessarily the least expensive option, but it brings some very nicely integrated features to Ubiquiti Unifi customers, and I really like that single pane of glass management that I have with my other Unifi products. So Unifi Talk is generally promoted as a business only and not as a home solution, and we're going to see some reasons why they say that. Unifi Talk is supported on the UDM Pro, the UDM SE, the UDM Pro Max, the Unifi Dreamwall, and the CloudKey Gen 2 Plus. And Unifi Talk supports free calling to the US, Canada, and Mexico. And so call transcription is included as a part of the service, as well as something they call AI transcription, which scans phone calls and gives you a summary of what the subject of the call was about. And call recording is supported on an attached hard drive, as is call history and voicemail. So in my particular example, I use a UDM Pro, and I have an 8 terabyte drive installed in the front of that UDM Pro, and that 8 terabyte drive up until a few months ago was used solely for Unifi Protect, Ubiquiti's camera system. And so now it is also used for Unifi Talk, where it does call recording and call logs. So there's a smart assistant or automated voice assistant that comes along as a part of the Unifi Talk service, and I didn't really see a use case for that at my house. I suppose if you're running a business out of your house and you had different phone numbers and different extensions, you might want to put in an automated voice assistant to route callers to the appropriate extension. And there's also an intercom and internal PBX calling, so every single phone, be it a soft phone or a physical VoIP phone under Unifi Talk, has a dedicated extension number. And so E911 service is also a part of Unifi Talk, and when I was using Google Voice, E911 service, or really any 911 service, was not a part of that. So here's what the Unifi Talk service levels look like. They have something called the Plus plan for $9.99 a month, and they have something called the Pro plan for $24.99 a month. And those prices are per month and per phone number. And so the basic service, the Plus plan, has 3,000 monthly minutes. It has 50 SMS messages per month, but there is a caveat about that, which I'll discuss later. It has 60 call transcription minutes per number and an unlimited number of calls per number, as well as emergency calling and free number porting. So it didn't cost me anything to port my number from Google Voice over to Unifi Talk. Now, I went ahead and opted for the Pro plan, and the Pro plan is more expensive, as you can see here, but it gives you unlimited voice minutes, it gives you unlimited SMS, it gives you more call transcription. I was going to say call transcription. Okay, call transcription numbers. And it also gives you 3,000 caller ID name lookups. But the biggie here is that it provides you the Unifi Identity soft phone. And that Identity soft phone can be used on Mac and on Windows, as well as on iOS and Android. And in my particular case, since my desktops are Linux, I couldn't use it there, but I do use it on my cell phone for both my wife and myself. So what would be the best configuration for home phones? Well, you must have at least one Unifi device to configure Unifi Talk. So although if you have a UDM Pro, you might see that Unifi Talk is out there, but you can't configure it until you own at least one Unifi Talk device. So my one and only Unifi Talk device at this point is the Unifi ATA. The model number is UT-ATA, and this is what the device looks like. And the Unifi Talk ATA actually has two ports. I'm using port number 1 for my home phone, and I have port number 2 configured as an additional extension number, but I don't have it connected to anything yet. My plan is to run it into another room and to connect it to a cordless system where I did not have a phone plug. So the analog telephone adapter is also the least expensive of the Unifi Talk devices, which we mentioned that you needed at least one. And so this device is $99, and it does provide the two ports, as I mentioned. You can also connect this device via Wi-Fi. I would recommend it being instead connected wired, because that really makes a little bit more sense. And it's not a high bandwidth device at all. In fact, it only has a fast Ethernet or 100 megabit connection, because you don't need even a gigabit for phone calls. So the Unifi Talk dashboard really furthers the idea of having that single pane of glass for their network controller and their other applications. And so here's an example of the Unifi Talk dashboard. Up here, I have it highlighted on the day, and when I took the screenshot, it was right at the beginning of the day, so I had not made any phone calls. You can also do a summary by week and a summary by month. And then we have the Unifi Talk devices screen. So devices may include Unifi devices like an actual Unifi phone, and I believe they have two different models of phone. And it could also provide a Unifi ATA. And although it's been mentioned on many other people's videos, they sell the phones as both locked and unlocked phones, where the unlocked phones cost a lot more money, but unlocked soft phones, unlocked VoIP phones for the Unifi system are not really the same as other unlocked phones. If you have an unlocked phone, you can assign the same phone number across multiple phones. If you have a locked Unifi phone device, you can only assign it to one particular phone number. And so that's a limitation. So if you had an office and you had 10 users in the office but only one phone number, you would need to have all unlocked phones. So the Pro plan provides up to 5 identity app soft phones per phone number. And as I mentioned earlier, we use that for both my wife and myself. So we have our home phone in the form of a Unifi Identity soft phone on each of our cell phones. And I use a soft phone app called Voiper 5, and that's being used for a soft phone on my Ubuntu desktop because the Identity app is not supported in Linux, and I also have it on my Ubuntu laptop for the same reason. And you might want to go look at www.voiper.com. And so their soft phone is free, but it does provide a few additional features if you pay a one-time license fee per seat of $60. And I found it more than worthwhile, and so I used the Voiper soft phone for my Ubuntu desktop. And so here's what the devices screen looks like under the Unifi Talk application. The first device that I have here is Scotti-BYTE. That's actually my soft phone for my desktop. And then I have Linux laptop, which is grayed out here and it's red. And that just simply means that that soft phone is offline currently. Then I have an identity app that talks to or is configured on my wife's cell phone. I have the home phone ATA, and I have the identity app for my cell phone. Next, we have the Unifi Talk users screen. So the users screen is a screen which defines all of your users. And it's a very important aspect of this is that users are assigned to groups, and groups point to one or more phone numbers. And I found very early on that I could not assign my phone number to one user and then turn around and assign it to another user because it would unassign it from the first user. So the technique to do that is basically to create a group, assign the phone number to the group, and then, or not assign the phone number to the group, assign users to the groups, and then assign the phone number, the group, instead of any particular user. So here we see the users, Linux desktop, Scotti-BYTE. There's a user for my second port on my ATA because I invented that. And then there is myself as a user. And so every user must have a unique email address when you create an account. And that's really kind of a holdover from Ubiquiti cloud accounts. And so that's kind of important. I get around that over here because I use Cloudflare as my DNS provider, and they allow me to have mail aliases. And so I assign mail aliases, and I can use different mail aliases for each Ubiquiti account. So then we have the Unifi Talk group screen. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a one-to-one mapping of a phone number to a user unless you use groups. So here's an example of the group that I have called Home Phone, and the group Home Phone is assigned to my wife, it's assigned to myself, it's assigned to my user for my desktop, and it's assigned to my user for my laptop, and it's also assigned to the second port of the ATA, which is going to be a future. And then we have the concept of virtual devices. So you might have been wondering why I basically have a user for my desktop and I have a device for my desktop and I call it Scotti-BYTE. And so the usual way to add a Unifi Talk hardware device is to adopt it. So if I get a Unifi Talk VoIP phone system or a phone device, I would put it on my network and I would adopt it like I would adopt a Unifi switch or a Unifi access point. And so that's what you do with that. And the same is true of the Unifi Talk ATA. When you put it on your network, you would adopt it as well. So in the devices screen, you also have an option to add a device which can then be used in conjunction with either a third-party VoIP phone or a soft phone, something I'm calling a virtual phone. So when I hit the plus button, I said I want a phone called Scott Mondo. I put Scott Mondo in the group for home phone, and then I went ahead and assigned that to the device Scott Mondo. And once I did that, it gave me an extension number. And of course, I have my outgoing number in virtue of the group. My SIP server host is the gateway address for my UDM Pro, which in my case, if you watch the channel, you know by now that I use 172.16.0.1 as my default LAN network. And then by default, SIP server ports are port 5060, and then the username it will assign, which is an extension number. So in this case, the extension number of my desktop machine is 0013, and then it provides you a password. So when you set up your Voiper phone, you would be providing the host address, you'd be providing the username, which is the extension number, and you would be providing the password. So the address of your UDM Pro is basically the Unifi Talk host, as I just described. And the username is your extension number. So what about the soft phones? Well, we have the Voiper 5 soft phone, and here you can see that I'm signed on, and this is my desktop. And so it's signed on to 172.16.0.1. As we just talked about, that's the gateway address of the UDM Pro. And for example, I might be wanting to call the laptop, and I have a contact entered called Linux Laptop, and it happens to be extension 14. And if I came over here and hit the dial button, it would go off and dial the laptop if the laptop was currently online. And then we have the Unifi Identity soft phone application. So if you go out to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store and you go install the Unifi Identity app, you'll get this application up and running, and then Unifi administrators can go out and turn on options like one-click VPN, or if you have Unifi Talk configured and you have the Pro plan, then you also have the ability to turn on the soft phone for the users you add. So in my case, I have a one-click VPN, and I also have the Talk phone. So if I'm traveling about with my cell phone and I click the one-click VPN, I'm automatically on a VPN to the house. I don't need that to use the soft phone, but it's just an additional option to easily get back into my home network. And then I can go ahead and click on the soft phone, and it will give me a dial keypad as well as my contacts list, and I can make and receive phone calls from my cell phone no matter where I am, but it will be using this home phone number hosted by Unifi Talk. And then here's what the keypad looks like when I click on Unifi Talk. You can see at the bottom that you can specify favorites. It'll give you a queue of recent phone calls. You have contacts. The keypad's what we're displaying right now. And if there's voicemail, you have a voicemail screen. And then in order to look at call logs of all the phone numbers and extensions you have on your Unifi system, you're going to have to go to the Unifi dashboard. I kind of wish there was another option to do this, especially for businesses, but I think that when it comes down to it, for home users, this is not really a limitation. And it will show you where the phone number or call was made from, and then it was dialed to, if it was answered, and if so, where it was answered from. It will give you the date and time of the call, the duration of the call, and it will give you a call recording. And then it gives you an experience. In this particular case, it called this experience poor because I had a network problem going on at the same time, and I was using the phone as one of my things to try to fix that network problem. So then we have the concept of call recording. So here's an example of a call recording that I had. And it will, this is the AI transcription that we're looking at here. And the AI transcription can automatically redact PII. That's an option. And then it will give you a overall sentiment of the phone call, positive, negative, neutral. That's just kind of an option to give you information. Here we have the whole transcription at the bottom, which of course scrolls. And in this particular case, somebody called me. It was a wrong number. They thought they were calling Walmart. So it said the customer called a phone number given for Walmart pickup and delivery, but reached the agent instead. The agent would be me. And the agent informed the customer that the number they called has belonged to the agent for a certain number of years. That was redacted. The agent provided the correct phone number for Walmart pickup and delivery, which is this number. And it said the customer acknowledged and said they will try calling the correct number. So this is a really nice capability that you wouldn't have through most VoIP phone systems. So in summary, Unifi Talk works as a reliable home phone system. And Voiper 5 soft phone can offer some basic soft phone capability for Linux users and even for mobile users if you prefer. It just doesn't make some things like reading voicemail quite as simple as it would be using the Unifi Identity soft phone. And so Unifi Identity soft phone supports more Unifi Talk features seamlessly, but again, it requires that more expensive Pro plan. And inbound SMS is supported. So SMS is a very important detail that you should know about. Unfortunately, they do not support outbound SMS. That is, for you sending messages outbound. You have to instead register as a business in order to be able to do that. And there's several hoops you have to jump into to accomplish that. And so basically, outbound SMS requires something called A2P 10DLC registration. And you have to use your government IRS provided employer identification number, meaning that you're a business, and you would have, it's easy to get an EIN, but you would have to have filed with that EIN and have business records online indicating you're a legitimate business. And so and that's what is set up to allow businesses to send what they call application to person or A2P SMS messages. And by default, Unifi disables the ability in Unifi Talk to send messages out unless you're a registered service. And that's because they are promoting themselves as a business phone service. I kind of hope in the future that Unifi Talk will have a way to use the service as a home phone as opposed to just a business phone. But I might point out you can still receive SMS messages. You just can't reply to them unless you have this business registration that is completed. So although it's geared for business, and really the SMS is the main caveat here, I think that Unifi Talk provides a nicely integrated VoIP solution for home users. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe and like to the channel, and don't forget to hit your notification bell, and we'll see you next time.